Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Monday night panel. We have the great pleasure of having the new technical director of Swindon Town, Sandro Di Michele. I hope I've said that right. He's only just told me how to pronounce it, but hopefully that's right. So we'll bring him on with Vic in a second. Just to let you know that the membership is now open for the next season for the OSC. So please go to our website and renew, or if you haven't been a member, to join our club. There's some benefits, and we have draws, priority over live events. And of course, you've got your discount in the shop and discount on SAS travel. So it's all on the website. So please have a look on that and join if you can. Also, the match day draw, we're taking subscriptions for that. So you have a season-long subscription. You pay your £23 up front, and then you're guaranteed a ticket for every game, every league game. So have a look on the website. Any questions at all, just please drop us a line and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Okay, so I'm not going to waste any more time. So let's get on to Vic. Hiya, Vic.
Good evening to you, Chris. And one thing I would say is that when the questions come through, no neighbour spoilers today, please. I haven't seen it yet. So if if there are any of those, I'll be really annoyed. So don't.
Well, I tell you what, I actually caught the end of it because it was before my thriller in the afternoon, and it was quite sort of, I don't know who they were because I don't watch it.
Leave it there.
Quite emotional, so I don't know what they were doing, but
just leave it. Just leave it.
Okay, so right. So any questions that you have for either Sandro or the panel, please leave them in the comments and we'll get through as many as possible. So without further ado, let me bring Sandro on. Good evening, Sandro.
Good evening, Chris. Good evening, Vic. How are you?
I'm very well. Good evening to you. Yes.
Welcome to your first appearance on our Monday night panel. I'm sure it won't be your last. So.
No, thank you for having me. No, it's wonderful to be here. It's a lovely opportunity to be able to try and update yourself and some of the fans on what's going on at the club at the moment. I've got a feeling, a slight inkling, I know what we might be talking about this evening. But thank you for having me. It's a real honour to be here.
No, it's a pleasure. Right, I will see you all.
Chris, thanks very much indeed. Sandro, welcome along. Thank you very much indeed. Sandro Di Michele, and we'll get that out there straight away. So that's the way to say it. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. I know you know what the questions are going to be about, so we'll get to those in just a moment. But just a quick bit of background about you and where you're from. You were at Wigan. I think that was a short-term contract, as I understand it. You've now taken up this post with Swindon Town. Just a little bit about your background.
Yeah. So I've worked in data and football, predominantly in the betting industry for about 20 years now. And that kind of led me down this route of understanding how data can really benefit and support football clubs in a slightly different way. And about 4 or 5 years ago, I set up my own consultancy business, providing data-driven recruitment consultancy for clubs, League One, League Two, bottom end Championship, clubs in the National League. So, and I've had a number of projects at a number of different clubs. As you touched on there, Vic, my most recent one was at Wigan Athletic last summer. And I started last summer. I was there for 6 months, and we're doing some consultancy. Clem got in touch with me a couple of weeks ago after Ben Shawley left the club, and just asked me if I'd be able to provide a bit of support for the club on recruitment, and with one eye on potentially a search for a head coach. And he also informed me that the club were in the process of identifying a new technical director. And the conversations went very well. We developed a very, very good working relationship very quickly, myself, Clem and Rob Angus. And it went from there. And 7 days ago, or a little bit more than that, they offered me the role of technical director. It's a wonderful opportunity, one that I couldn't turn down. It's brilliant to be able to work in a club that share the same philosophy and the same principles that I have on how I believe football clubs should be run. And that's kind of, I suppose, what brings me here today in front of you, really, Vic. It was as straightforward as that, but as I said, I do have experience, 4 or 5 years experience in working in data and player recruitment at a number of other clubs.
Yeah, we'll get onto the data thing in a little while, and the word Moneyball springs to mind. I'm sure you're aware of that, but we'll ask you a little bit about that a little later on. In terms of technical director, how does that differ from director of football? Now, as I understand it, recruitment, the medical staff, all that sort of thing comes under your umbrella. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. And I think when you look at the interpretations, if you go away and do a bit of research on it, you find that it varies from the demands of each club, be that technical director, sporting director, director of football. But I suppose where my role differs is there is a much greater focus on data and analytics now than there has been in the past. So we're taking in a number of different data sources, and we're using that to really help us in our recruitment process. So whereas previously maybe the director of football had a sole focus around the playing team, the playing squad, the management and that side of things, this is a slightly broader remit. Obviously, there's working closely with the medical team, the sports science team, recruitment, as the previous director of football did. But there's this kind of constant theme of using data and analytics to kind of drive our decision making, to try and ensure that we make smarter decisions and we make more smart decisions as a football club.
Well, I got a question here from Simon Batchelor, who says, I'm interested in the process of data-driven recruitment. I get that we can use it to compare players and come out with a list of players that may improve the squad based on this. But what's the process after this? Are those given to the head coach where a consensus of targets are reached? So if you identify a player based on data and you say, this is the player we should sign, whoever the head coach is, and we'll get to that in a minute, as you're bound to be aware, in terms of who would have the decision, who would say, we want to sign him, him and him?
It's a good question. So I think the best way of looking at this is you kind of have to start from the top down. So Clem Mafuni is a wonderful chairman to work for, but we believe, and this is predominantly Clem's vision, but I completely buy into this. What we're doing is we're building a sustainable football club. Sustainability means that we can self-fund and we're self-sufficient. So putting that into very simple terms, we don't have a Saudi chairman who's prepared to write off tens of millions of pounds of losses every season. That isn't the model that we're going for. So to be financially sustainable as a football club, that means we need to drive revenue off the pitch, ticket sales, food and beverages, shirt sales, etc. But also another way you do that is through developing players, and potentially, if we feel that the price valuation is the right one, we are a selling club. Now, I think a selling club, that probably applies to, I'd say, probably about 89 football clubs out of the 92 in the pyramid. But I think some do it better than others. And I think probably more realistic examples of this, clubs that are similar to us in terms of our level and our size, and actually arguably I'd say we're bigger than both of these clubs, but I think Peterborough have developed a brilliant reputation for doing it over the years, of identifying undervalued, underdeveloped talent and progressing it and really showcasing how good those players are, and then they've moved on to play in higher leagues above. And I think MK Dons are developing a really good reputation for it now as a team, and I know they're a club that divide opinion amongst football fans, but they've got a clear philosophy on how they want to play, and so that's the first port of call. So then you go back and say, right, now how are we going to identify players that we believe are undervalued and underdeveloped? Because we believe at Swindon we create the right environment with the right head coach and all the other facets of the team to get the best out of them. So then as you go through this process, we identify a very clear profile of what we like in each position, based on a whole host of factors, but predominantly around what do successful players look like in those positions, what are the physical attributes they have, what are the mental attributes they have, what are the tactical and technical attributes they have, and those are kind of that's our brief, if you like. Those are our parameters that we then search by, and then that would give us a medium to short list of maybe 15 to 20 players that kind of tick the boxes in those search criteria. And then we go through the next phase, which is some of the softer stuff around what's their contract situation, how many years do they have left on a deal, how much do they earn, would they be willing to move to a club like Swindon, what are the character references like, what are they like as people, and then the more traditional scouting part goes into the then.
That's what I was going to say to you. What about the old traditional getting out and watching reserve games on a Tuesday afternoon? Does that come into it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And there's, we will spend thousands of hours this year with our scouts and myself and other members of the team watching players, be that video scouting, which is a more efficient and cost-effective way of doing it, before we then go and watch them in person as well. So I think it's really important that people understand being data-driven doesn't mean that spreadsheets tell us which players we're going to sign. What the data does is it makes us better, and it helps us and supports us in what we're trying to achieve.
Okay. Right. Now, you'll know what the burning question is for most Town fans right at this moment in time. Sarah Smith says, hello, Sarah, when does Carrick start? Rich says, new manager, when is the announcement? That's the sort of things we're getting in. Rich also says Noble, head coach. There are all sorts of names banded about. Let's start with Michael Carrick. Once had a spell on loan at Swindon. I remember watching him play when he was at West Ham. He came to Swindon on loan. Would Michael Carrick be in the frame?
Michael Carrick would be of a profile of the type of head coach we are looking for. However, and this is a big however, the simple finances of football mean taking someone out of Manchester United, or someone that's been at Manchester United for a long period of time, and bringing them to Swindon Town with the greatest respect. That's a big ask. So what I would say is that might be a case of the rumour mill putting two and two together and maybe getting a number that isn't quite 4, I think would be the best way of putting it. Now, that's not to say, of course we'd be interested in having conversations with someone like Michael Carrick, but I think that we could go through this. We could go through a list of about 50 people if we wanted, Vic, and I don't think it's probably healthy or the right thing to do is just kind of get drawn on individuals and talk about that. There's loads of names. I think look, I come from a betting background. I think these betting markets are they're not the most accurate in these types of situations. So look at them, pay a little bit of attention, but probably don't pay too much attention to them. And rumours, there's a lot of social media accounts nowadays. Social media seems to be the first place people consume a lot of their information from. Unfortunately, with social media, you can throw up whatever you want and you don't really have to quantify a lot of what you've said. So yeah, I think, I know I flirted around the subject and skirted around.
Yeah. Is that a yes or a no?
Yeah. No, never say never, but I think sometimes it's kind of realistic to understand where we are as a football club in terms of our finances and where, someone from a Manchester United or Manchester City are in terms of salary expectations and wage expectations.
So it's probably a no then. Is that what you're saying?
Maybe.
Okay.
Who knows? There's always compromises to be made, but yeah.
Okay. So when are we expecting something to happen? We're a week away from the start of pre-season. Plans have to be made. Players who aren't under contract but have been offered terms, they need to be sorted out. So when do we expect an announcement to be made? Because obviously Ben Garner, if it was realistically been gone since the end of last season. So when do we expect that announcement to be made?
As soon as possible. That doesn't really give you an awful lot more clarity on the situation. All I can say is we're quite a long way down the line with a short list of candidates. That's as kind of descriptive as I can be. It's a tricky time of the year. People are on holiday. People are in different parts of the world. That makes it more challenging. When you get to the stage where you're getting very close to kind of offering people jobs and sorting out contracts, they have to go and see the ground. They have to go and see the training facility. They have to go and spend time with Clem. They have to go and spend time with Rob Angus. They need to see other parts and other teams within the infrastructure of our football club. And it's a massive appointment for the football club, so we need to make sure we get it right. I am acutely aware of when pre-season starts and when the lads are going to be back. And I'm also acutely aware that this is having an impact on our recruitment. So we are pushing this as hard and as quickly as we possibly can. I don't want to give a timeline on it, because if we go and miss that timeline or that deadline, fans will be naturally disappointed, and I would be disappointed in myself if we miss that deadline. All I can guarantee you and every Swindon Town fan is we are pushing this and moving this as quickly as we possibly can.
Right. We've got loads and loads of questions coming in, and you'll appreciate that people are very invested in this, and they want to know who that might well be. There's a question here about the two Scots who obviously were involved in the club last season. And if you get a new head coach in, what is the situation with the two Scots? Are they gone? Are they with the club? What's happening?
There's kind of conversations ongoing at the moment between Ben, obviously his new employers, and what his backroom team might look like. At the moment, we're not completely clear on that. I think common sense tells you, when you look at when managers move to a club and when managers have been successful, they generally like to keep their team around them. Obviously, both the two Scots have contracts and are employed by Swindon Town. So we just need to, if Ben really wants them and they'd like to work with Ben at Charlton, which is completely understandable. I think we can all understand that. That's how it works. You and I know different, Vic. We like to work with people that we have good relationships with. Obviously, we just need to make sure that if that is all resolved, that we're compensated fairly. So I think the picture on that will become a little bit clearer. I believe Ben's been away on holiday, and I believe the two Scots have been on holiday as well. So, and again, it's another example of, it's not the easiest trying to resolve these conversations and the finances of these things when people are kind of scattered all across different parts of the world, enjoying a well-earned break.
Yeah, let me give you an example here. This is from Paddy, who's a regular contributor to this. So from what you're saying, Carrick equals finances. Is that definite we're going to go to the cheapest of cheap routes, regardless of ability or experience head coach-wise? That's how he reads it. I mean, is it all about money?
No, I don't think that's a particularly accurate assessment, in all honesty. You don't pay someone a Premier League wage or you pay them peanuts. There's a happy medium somewhere, isn't there? There's 5 divisions if you include the National League in English football, and earnings and salaries kind of are a bit linear in terms of what people earn in the National League up to what people earn in the Premier League, and we need to choose where we think we sit on that scale in terms of what we believe is a fair salary to pay to a head coach. I think also there's a piece around, this is a wonderful football club with an incredible fan base, averaging 10,600 home fans last season in the league. That would have been, I believe, the 8th highest average attendance in League One. There's an attraction with that comes with that, and also, you don't often get opportunities to go into management or to be a head coach when a team have missed out on automatic promotion by 3 points. And where I'm going to with this, Vic, is this is a massive pull to come and be head coach of this club. So we don't believe we should be paying over the odds. And also, just on that, we believe in sustainability, financial sustainability of this football club. And we're not going to go out and pay Premier League, the wage of a Premier League coach to come and be our head coach in League Two, but we will pay a very, very fair wage. I also think what we have demonstrated, and the club have demonstrated, if you look back 12 months ago, I think, I don't believe every Swindon Town fan immediately said, Ben Garner, that's a brilliant appointment, because Ben was, he'd had an unsuccessful period at Bristol Rovers, but he'd had great experience working in Premier League academies under some very good managers. So, and look at what Ben Garner's gone on and done, and in 12 months he's now managing in League One. So it's not purely about finances. Either you pay absolute chunks, or you do it on a shoestring. There's a happy medium. So the most important thing is about finding the right person. And I think also with the squad that was assembled this season, this club have demonstrated that you can punch well above your weight. It's not purely just about the finances, because I know for a fact there were clubs in League Two with significantly bigger budgets than us, and I'm talking hundreds of thousands bigger than us, that haven't achieved anywhere near the levels this football club have. And I believe that's our biggest strength, is we identify undervalued, underdeveloped talent. That's playing talent, but that's also managerial and coaching talent.
What about players and recruitment? Because obviously there are players out of contract who you want to keep at the club. People like Jack Payne, for instance. They've got, I think, till the 30th of June, haven't they, to decide what they do. In terms of player recruitment and indeed getting those players to sign, where are we at? Have we brought new players in? Is it a case of waiting till the head coach is appointed? Where are we?
Yeah, look, it's a little bit of both. I think I did a piece, I think with BBC Radio Wiltshire last Friday, and I think the term I used was it's a little bit chicken and egg, and it is. So why it's so important to talk about our strategy and our philosophy, and that's also about the way we play. That's attacking, possession-based front foot football. Why it's so important to talk about that is that's to try and reassure people and potential signings that we're not deviating away from what Ben Garner's done. So we're not all of a sudden going to go and appoint a different manager who will go and be more direct and will want to play two up top, and we'll bang it up to the front men, and we're going to start signing 32-year-old centre forwards and paying them big money. That isn't us. That isn't what Swindon Town Football Club is about, and that isn't what is going to make us sustainable and successful. So what we can say to people is we are going to find a coach that has the same footballing philosophy and will play the same brand of football as Ben Garner did. Until we know the head coach, we can't give people the answer they want. And I'd be lying if I didn't say players and agents have said, we love the club, we're really intrigued, but we do need to know who the head coach is before we make that decision. We've still got all our targets. We're working on all of those. We're engaging with them on a regular basis and their representatives. If we can get deals done, we will get deals done. But likewise, from their perspective, they would like to know who the head coach is. And again, that's why it comes back the other way. I'm acutely aware of the importance and the time criticality of getting this head coach in. But regardless of who the head coach is, it doesn't change the profile of players that we're looking to sign. So we might have a list of 7 centre forwards, for example. Well, we're not going to sign a player that the new head coach really doesn't want to work with. But if he doesn't like options 1 and 2 on the list, he will like options 3, 4, 5, and 6. If you get where I'm coming from, they're all a similar profile because they fit into what we're trying to achieve.
Okay, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. We'll talk to you about Moneyball another time, because I'm aware of the time and how long we've had you on. How many people have you got on the shortlist? Have you got a preferred candidate? And when are we expecting the news conference? I mean, you said that there isn't a preferred time. You know, you can't give me a timeline, and I get that. And it's how long is a piece of string. But if I was to say to you, I mean, the fans would love somebody like Paul Caddis, who bleeds red and white, to be involved in some way, shape, or form. Somebody like that. If you were to say, because you talk about passion, talk about involvement with the fans, somebody like that would fit the bill. But I also get that you want to go with a young, perhaps an academy-based coach. But if I was to say to you, have you got a preferred candidate in mind, and what length of shortlist have you got? Is that easy to answer?
Yeah, ish. I'd say we're kind of getting around 3 to 4 candidates approximately, and we're quite a long way down the line with all of them. I think the one thing that is worth bearing in mind is you need to kind of spin plates with this, because if you miss out, for whatever reason, if you get to the place where Claire, myself and Rob identified number 1 and something was to fall through, you can't go back to the drawing board again. Otherwise, you might not find yourself appointing a head coach until first week in October. But so it's kind of, and that's why the vagaries from myself, which I appreciate, don't help a lot of fans with the answers they want, but that's a simple reality of recruitment. you need to have a number of options up your sleeve. The other reason you need to do that is to manage the finances of the business. You can't be held to ransom because you've only got one person and they've almost got you over a barrel. So when we go through this process, we need to make sure we do what's best for the interest of the football club. So that's having a handful of candidates, which is kind of where we are now.
Mark Delaney's been mentioned. I mean, have you got to a point where you had a candidate and you had agreed it with yourself? You said that's the one we want, but then that was the candidate said, actually, no, I don't want. It's not right for me. Have you reached that point at all?
No, we haven't. There's been a lot of conversations. I'm not naive. I do look at betting markets occasionally because I think that they're interesting. And obviously, I'd be a liar if I didn't say I read stuff in media and on social media. And I think we kind of all know the person that we're referring to in terms of someone that was backed in. But no, there hasn't been kind of one candidate and then that's not materialised as we'd have liked and we've gone back again. No, because he was the favourite 3 days ago. We've now got another favourite. Well, I've not looked today, but we had another favourite last night, and that's kind of the way the rumour mill works, and that's the way these markets work as well. They're very volatile. So no, we weren't in that situation.
Okay, we've got loads of questions, which what we normally do, I mean, we're not going to get anywhere near scratching these. So what we'll normally do is we send them to you on an email and you can see the sorts of questions that we had in. And they're all very good questions, in terms of like Moneyball, all this kind of thing, the players we're going to get in, the names that are being mentioned. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I mean, we've had you on for 28 minutes now, so we're well over our time. So I appreciate your honesty, but you will understand more than anybody that we as town fans want to know who this person is. And indeed, when is the new kit launched? That's another thing that people are asking. That kind of, have we got a kit launch date?
I believe so. I'll be honest with you. I'd be lying if I knew when it was, because I think I've had my focuses and my intentions elsewhere. Yeah, I'm afraid. I believe it's very soon. I've seen a couple of teasers and what have you on social media. I'll be honest, I've spent a few days down at the county ground last week, and I've spent most of my time in far-flung parts of the country meeting other people for the obvious task in hand. I believe it's this week, but you're far better off speaking to Rob Angus and Clem on that one. I don't want to get misquoted in saying this is when the new kit's announced, and that isn't the case. Yeah, these are things, these are decisions, and are way above my pay grade, Vic, in all honesty. Leave that to the commercial guys.
All right. And just finally, one more time, who's the new head coach?
Oh, Vic, come on. This could be the start of a beautiful friendship. You've got all Jeremy Paxman on me all of a sudden, haven't you? So, look, as soon as I know, and as soon as we know, look, we'll be so thrilled to announce it. So look, I cannot emphasise it anymore that I'm doing everything possible with Clem and with Rob to get this appointment wrapped up in the next few days as quickly as we possibly can. But I don't want to, as I said, give an exact timeline, because if that slips, everyone ends up disappointed.
Get that. Andrew, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for your time, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you again, Sandro, sometime soon. So
I hope so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Right, there we go.
Well done, Vic.
Loads and loads of questions, which I got nowhere near getting to. But I did say to Sandra, what we normally do is we send them to him on an email, so he's got an idea of what people are asking. Yes. So there we are. We had him for half an hour, and we still don't know who the new head coach is. So.
And to be fair, I don't think they know.
No.
And they're not going to give anything away because of somebody else coming in for them or something like that, are they? So I think we will know soon enough. Clem goes back Friday, so hopefully we'll get something before Friday. And there's a lot of talk on here about when's the kit being launched. The shop opens on Thursday, so after the refurb, so we could probably use that as a date of it will be full of the new shirts, maybe.
Interesting here. I got a point from Malcolm, and he says, if anyone is interested in the origins of data-driven analysis, Google Charles Reap, known as the godfather of footy analysis. Well worth read. I have to say, Wing Commander Charles Reap was somebody I interviewed at great length many, many years ago. And he is the inventor of Route 1 football. He had a shed full of newspapers, and he said all goals could be scored in 3 passes. So Wing, absolutely fascinating chap. And I had the great pleasure of meeting him and interviewing him at great length many years ago. Lived in Tall Point. But anyway, I diverse. Should we get the panel on?
Okay, so should we get everybody on? We will get Mark on.
Hello.
We've got Mitchell.
Hello.
We've got Mr. Hawes, and we've got Steve Hale. And I want to know where you are, Steve, because it looks lovely.
Yeah, we all do.
I'm very close to Vic, actually.
Oh, are you?
Right.
Whereabouts are you?
I am, yes. Clumpton.
How are you? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, well, there you go.
you should have
You
come
might
round
be
here.
getting
We
a
could have done... Actually, I could have come there. I'd much prefer to be there, to be honest. It looks sunny. It's cloudy
Oh,
here.
it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah. I'm trying not to get it to shine off my head and put people off.
Lovely.
Right.
Very nice.
Well, welcome everybody. Sorry, Steve, you were sort of just thrown into it because we had to start. So, but I'm going to leave you now. And
Oh, she's left. Okay, fair enough. Right, let's. Mark, hello to you.
Hello.
Mitchell, hello to you, and congratulations on the new arrival. We haven't had you on since.
Thank you very much.
So many congratulations about that. All is well, I hope. With that.
Everything's good.
Good. Andrew, welcome to you. A little disappointed that you put your hat on because before we started this, the hat wasn't on.
Well, I don't want to have Steve's problem of it kind of reflecting. So.
And Steve from lovely Clumpton, hello to you. It's a decent Chinese there, if I remember rightly. So you can get along there and use it. Right, let's go from the top then. Mark, what did you think? We're still no further forward knowing who the head coach is going to be. I tried, but they don't know, I don't think, at the moment. They've got 3 or 4 candidates. So where do you think we are?
You tried very hard, Vic. Fair play to you. You know, and he wasn't going to say much, was he? You can't blame him, can you?
No.
You can't speculate too much because we're all the same, aren't we? We're very impatient as a fan base. We want to know who the new manager is going to be. But I did like what he said, actually, and it made a lot of sense in terms of, people are on holiday. They want to come and, they need to come to the ground to check out the ground, the training facilities, know what the situation is. You can't do it long distance. So for that reason, I'm sure they have got a short list. We can speculate all we like, which I'm sure we will do tonight, about who's on that short list. But I think he's kind of, unless he's the best actor ever, I think he's kind of ruling out the likes of Michael Carrick, isn't he, by the sound of it?
By the sound, who knows? Michael Carrick will arrive tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, and we'll all go,
Yes.
"Oh, it's Michael Carrick." That's not necessarily the case, by the way. Mitchell, where do you think we're at the minute?
I'm one of the people. I'm quite patient, which is unlike me in any way of my life. But with this, I'm quite relaxed. I'm rather get the right person. I said it before. If you make quick, rash decisions, and this guy doesn't seem like he's gonna, everything seems calculated to the max. So I don't think he's the type of person who will make a rash decision. Everything will be calculated, as he said. He's not going to just go, "Oh, he's got a good win record," or that. He will want to understand what the character's like, how he fits, how he molds into the club, how he matches with other people. When you're employing people, it's making sure you get the right person. I really liked him. I'm quite patient and happy to wait for the right person.
Yeah, it's interesting, Andrew, isn't it? I mean, if we go through the last couple of years, I mean, as you know, it's very difficult with Ben Garner. I'm not going to say anything against Ben Garner. He's gone. We move on. But it was very difficult to get any media engagement out of him. You would know more than anyone, really. Player engagement was not something we had. But Sandro seemed very open to all that, which is refreshing, I think.
Yeah. I do think what Sir Richie Wellens did in terms of kind of getting out and doing the community stuff, as well as being a successful coach, which is still the first priority, is a great bonus. No, I don't think I'd have a go at Ben Garner too much. Some of it is sort of personality based, how outgoing or how introverted you are. But he did want to keep quite a sort of tight rein on the whole sort of media thing and media appearances, really, for the players, which ultimately, because it's his prerogative, and they did pretty well under under that. So if that loosens up, hopefully that's a bit better for everyone. But of course, the first thing is, can the new coach? So more than can the new coach interviewer appear at a school?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, oh gosh, lots of things coming in. Matt Taylor, obviously there are 63 of Matt Taylors on the list. To be fair, Charlton have stitched us up with this circus. No, ideal and not ideal, and no fault of ours. Steve, you've been involved with a football club. You know what happens. You know the machinations of appointment of new manager, all that kind of thing. Is he right to say, they need to get to know the club before they make a decision whether they come there or not?
Yeah, it's difficult. Obviously, from the Swindon point of view and the fans' point of view, everyone wants to know who that new manager is, and they're expecting the club to be working, frantically at it, which I'm sure they are. But there's two sides to it, obviously. So the people that they're speaking to, they want to obviously know that they're making the right decision, and they want to move to Swindon. Now, from the outside looking in, they might think, yeah, I really want to go there, but they might come and think, I'm not quite sure, because obviously these people could be coming from all over the country. They could be coming from up north, and they might actually think about it and think, oh, I really fancy that. And then when they've made that journey down and realise perhaps they've got to travel back up to see their family a couple of times a week, 400 miles, whatever, they might actually think, I'm not quite sure this is for me. So there's two sides to it. Swindon are obviously trying to recruit someone, but that someone also has to tick all the boxes for the person they're trying to recruit as well.
Yeah, very much so. Dean says these things take time. He's just said the reasoning. Pretty sure good recruitment is taking the time to choose the right person. Oh gosh, here's a question which we'll get to in a minute. This is from Sean. What's your views about an upcoming friendly with Cardiff? The police having a say and bringing the kickoff forward. May as well start arranging friendlies with them. Lockdown down the road from now on. Then, if that's the case, I don't know if we'll ever have a friendly against that lot down the road, quite frankly. But there we are. Mark, what I mentioned Paul Caddis to him, and I think most fans would go, yes, please, we'll have somebody like Paul Caddis. Who bleeds red and white, and he wasn't committed on that. And what do you think? I mean, where are you standing in terms of a coach, manager? Where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I think everybody loves Paul Caddis, don't they? Paul Caddis is a red, isn't he? As the song goes. We all love him. Whether he'd be straight in as management material or head coach, if you like, perhaps doubtful, but possibly you could see him as a number two. He could come in and work with somebody else, because I think when you look at things, you want a connection to the football club. That's what we seem to lack, don't we? When you look at some of these managers that are appointed, who are they? Where have they come from? And then you compare them to people who have a connection with the football club. I'll give you an example. The guy who was pictured on Brian Clough's lap as a 7 or 8 year old, who then became the captain of Nottingham Forest and has taken them up to the Premier League. Those are the sorts of connections that fans really want, rather than somebody coming out of left field and you're looking at him thinking, okay, you could do a job, and he might do a job for a year or two, and then he buggers off somewhere. We don't want that. We want somebody who's going to stay around and somebody who has a connection, somebody who the fans can relate to. So Paul Caddis fits that, doesn't he? But I don't see him necessarily as a manager straight away.
No, I think anybody would quite like Paul Caddis in terms of a connection to the club in any role that he comes in. Yeah. But whether the football club see it like that, who knows? James says, ask Mitchell, is Anthony Grant the head coach that would please him? I think you'd go for that, wouldn't you? It's not going to happen, but you would go for that.
I think James the only person who loves Anthony Grant more than I do, to be fair. No, I love him and always have him as a player. But I similar to what Mark said, I do want somebody who's connected to the club in some capacity. So even if it's a number 2 or a coach within it, I know he was only here for a short spell, but when we had Martin Ling, that felt really right. That felt comfortable. There was a connection there. Yeah. Calderwood a few years ago, he was someone I did want, because he was doing well. But Caddis is a bit difficult one for me, because does he bleed red and white? I think he bleeds green and white. And he's based up, is it Manchester way?
Fleetwood, if I remember rightly.
Fleetwood. So he didn't move down here when he played for us. So I want somebody who's going to be around as well, and not the journey. Yeah, it's that person who's going to be the Swindon person, say, with the connection. I want someone a bit closer to home. And I do love Caddis, I think he's great. But maybe somebody closer to home. But I just accept it's going to be an under 23s manager coming in, and he's made it very clear, we're not going to be getting someone big. And what he also did was quite interesting, pretty much shut down the Charlie Austin situation by going, we're not going to spend a lot of money on a 32-year-old centre forward. That scares me a little bit, because we could go back to where we were 7-8 years ago, when everyone was a loanee or a kid and we had no experience in our team, and we just kept crushing certain games where we had lack of experience. So we have like lots of 19 and 20-year-old, 21-year-olds up front. We did all right this year, but...
Yeah. Richard says, at the end of the day, if the club rushed and made a poor appointment, everyone would moan. We've got to understand that they're taking their time to hopefully find the right candidate. Just need to relax, and hopefully it'll all fall in place. Andrew, you know Paul Kellis very well. You know as well as I do that he would, walk over hot coals to get this job, wouldn't he? Or be part of the county ground setup. Where do you stand in terms of a manager stroke coach? What is your thought? What do you would like to see?
Well, I can say without sort of breaking confidence, I know Paul and Swindon have spoken, so that discussions have taken place, which is not to say he is about to be appointed the next head coach, to make that very clear. I think in terms of Paul, there are a couple of things. Unfortunately for him, he's just in that situation where he doesn't really have a significant amount of coaching experience yet, and in terms of possibly having him on a backroom staff, I think that's quite a difficult situation for a new coach to come into, because imagine the new coach comes in, it's a bit of a rocky start. After 10 games, people are going to say, give Paul Caddis the job. So there are kind of difficulties. It would be great if he was involved in some capacity, because there is from when I speak to him, there is a genuine sort of connection with the club. I think what Mitchell has said is, and what sort of Sandro's hinted at, the most likely appointment does appear to be a coach who's primarily got that under 23 experience and developing players. Because to be fair to Ben Garner, we saw it with Tyree Simpson. I think we saw it with Harry McCurdy and some of the loanees. He did show that capability to develop players, and I think we actually had one of the younger average squads last season. Anyway, there's you had a little bit of experience with Ben Gladwin and Jack Payne and some of the others to back it up. So yeah, in short, I would imagine someone of the kind of primarily sort of under 23s record, and hopefully from their point of view, someone who can bring on players, because clearly that's we're going to be trying to sort of polish up rough diamonds a little bit.
Yeah, let's have a look. Carl says, seems a lot of puzzle pieces need alignment. Once one drops in, the rest will follow pretty quickly. Fingers crossed for good news in the next couple of days. More of them coming in, loads of them, in fact. So bear with me while I go through them. Steve, does sentiment play too much a part in what people want? I mean, you've been around, the workings of a football club. Do fans get too sentimental about people, or is that connection important? What are your views on that?
I can understand people wanting someone that perhaps they've watched on the county ground pitch, and they've someone they can relate to. But I don't actually think it's as important as you think. And this is an interesting one in terms of managers, because when I went to Oldham, I signed for Frankie Bunn, who was an inexperienced manager but a very experienced football person. Unfortunately, in the drama at Oldham, he got sacked. And then I had a period where I had Pete Wild, who was the academy manager at the time, for a period, and then Paul Scholes came in. Now, Paul Scholes is obviously a legend in the game as a player, but had no management, and I don't think he had any coaching experience. And then you've got Pete Wild, who probably everybody thinks, who on earth's Pete Wild, who was the academy manager. Over the period of time I worked with both of them, and I mean this in absolutely no disrespect for Paul Scholes at all, because what a fantastic guy he was and what a legend of the game. But if you said to me, right, in the future, who would you rather have work with as a manager, Pete Wild or Paul Scholes? I would actually say Pete Wild, because his enthusiasm, his organisation, his knowledge of coaching was fantastic. So he didn't have a big name in the game. You couldn't sort of look at him and think, oh, what a player he was. He didn't have a playing career. But as a manager and as a coach, I would choose working with or having Pete as my manager over Paul Scholes every day. And I mean no disrespect for Paul Scholes at all. But as I say, Pete was a relative nobody, but he did a really good job at a difficult time at Oldham Football Club. and I hoped he'd go on and do well. And he's proven at Halifax, obviously, that he can do the job well. And now, obviously, he's moved back into the Football League with Barrow. So, I'm watching that situation with interest, because, as I say, I certainly enjoyed my time working with him. But my point is, obviously, there's a lot of coaches, Delaney's, been talked about, and probably a lot of people will sit there and think, well, who's this, who's that? But I don't think we should write people like that off, because they have got coaching experience. They might not have the big name, but it doesn't mean because they haven't got the big name that they can't do a good job. So I understand the sentiment sometimes, but that can also work, that there might be a fantastic ex-Swindon player comes in as manager, and they could end up being tainted because they might not actually do the job very well, and all of a sudden then you've lost that love for them, if you like. So it can be a little bit too sentimental. Don't write off people that perhaps you haven't heard of. Swindon will do their due diligence and make the decision, and then you've got to give them that period of time and see how they do. And you might be pleasantly surprised, because everybody, managerials have got to start somewhere, and it could be that they start at Swindon and do a fantastic job.
Yeah. There's a message from H the Duck here, Andrew. Could you ask Andrew to pass his hat to Steve? Son dazzling him by the looks. So if you could do that, that'd be really good. The son in glorious Devon. Well, I'm glad you got it, because I've got it here. Yeah, I know. Could you just send it 14 miles down the road? That'd be lovely. Be really pleased. Right. Should we talk of more on the field matters, Mark? That friendly, the news today that Cardiff City game will now be kicking off at 12 o'clock on police advice. This is a friendly, for goodness sake. It just seems odd to me. And if that's the business we're in, of moving friendlies around on police advice, A, why are we playing it? And B, where does that leave us?
Yeah, it doesn't seem very friendly, does it, to be fair? You're moving it from, 3 o'clock to 12 o'clock. It's the first friendly I know and can think of that's been moved on police advice. I don't know what to think, really. I mean, are they expecting hordes of Cardiff City fans to turn up at the county ground? It seems a bit...
Well, I would imagine it depends on whether G. Bale was to sign.
Yeah, okay, that's fair point, that. Yeah, I didn't think of that, Vic. Yeah, you could well be right. I don't know. I suppose we just have to go with it, don't we? And, if we want to play the game, the club need fixtures. They've got many friendlies organised against non-league teams, haven't they? I think it's the only league friendly we've got, I believe, before the season kicks off at the end of July. Yeah. So, we probably have to play it, don't we? And we probably have to play it at 12 o'clock. And if Gareth Bale is playing, it will guarantee a few more thousand on the gate and a bit of extra revenue for the club, won't it?
Yeah, I think the last time he played in England before he went off to Real Madrid was at a friendly for Tottenham. And indeed, he scored, I think, if I remember rightly. So that was his last goal in England before his transfer to Real Madrid. Mitchell has
it wasn't his last game, because obviously he went back to Spurs and scored. But yeah, because obviously he went out.
No, but what I mean is before he went to Spain.
Yeah.
So don't ruin what I said, Mitchell.
Just trying to protect it.
Thank you. This is from Kerry. We know players are still on holiday, but Harry McCurdy Instagram account has been silent for the longest I've seen. Hope that's not a bad sign. I hope once an announcement has been made in the next few days, he'll be back soon. Literally, well, they'll all be back soon. On Monday, I think, is when pre-season training kicks off. So Cardiff being moved, Mitchell, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's actually the first game I was planning on taking my 2-year-old son to, because if it doesn't matter, I can just go, leave. But now I feel like there's some reason maybe I shouldn't be taking him to the game. Because if it's, that's not going to be the first experience. I thought it'd be quite a nice, friendly, sunny day. Enjoy it at 12 o'clock was perfect for him as well. But now I'm a bit nervous, because if someone thinks there's going to be trouble, I messaged my friend who's a Cardiff fan and said, what's going on with your fans? Why do we need to move it for the police? He hasn't come back to me yet. I remember years ago, we played Reading in the pre-season and we didn't increase the police presence because we were actually beating them. And they brought loads of fans, and we were beating them. And we changed our team loads, and they went on to win. And they celebrated like they won the FA Cup final. I remember walking past, and they go for it. We didn't have police trouble for Reading, and Reading passionately hate us. Obviously, they're not on our radar. They're too good for us. But they passionately hate us, and we had no extra police. So why Cardiff?
There have been moments, I think, between Swindon and Cardiff in the past. I think it was Jaap Stam's first match as manager of Reading, if I remember rightly.
Might have been. Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, actually, it was.
Yeah. Andrew, your thoughts on... Rob says less drinking time. That's why it's been put back. which makes perfect sense. And Anthony says there were about 30 arrests last time Cardiff played here in a friendly for goodness sake. What are your thoughts, Andrew?
Yeah, I suppose Cardiff fans do have that reputation to some extent, and so the police will do what they do. It's not ideal, is it? But I think, as Mark said, I think it's our only sort of friendly against higher division opponents. So not sure you can pull out and get someone else in now at this point. Yeah, I think we just have to deal with it. And like I say, we'll see if Mr. Bale can put a few quid on the gate for us.
Unless we get Port Vale in. Should we get Port Vale in as a friendly?
No, well, let's not do that, because actually that ties in with Tony's question. So what's happening about the Port Vale incidents? Police haven't come back to that day, now involved running the game of football. Well, we'll ask Chris at the end of this as to whether the supporters club have heard back. Steve, A, the friendly, and B, how important is it to get a head coach in ahead of pre-season, which is Monday? So, you know, you want a coach in who's got his plans ready and, you know, they know where they're going straight away, although it was all a rush last year with Ben Garner. We know how that turned out. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's difficult. The ideal scenario is by now we'd have a new head coach in and they could hit the ground running. I still think I can understand what Sandro was saying, that it must be difficult to try and get all the pieces in place and get the person in quickly. I'd still be surprised if there isn't an announcement, maybe not by the end of this week, but early part of next week. I think the first couple of days next week would be fitness testing with the players anyway. So probably Monday, Tuesday would be testing. So you wouldn't obviously necessarily have to have the head coach in by then. So I still think there's a chance that there will be a head coach in place. If there isn't, I still don't think it'll be long. There'll still be coaches, Lee Peacock, Steve Mildenhall, who could, you know, deal with the first few days of pre-season training. But I still think there'll be somebody in place. I'd like to think by the middle of next week, to be honest with you, because I think it's important. You know, the new prospective manager will want to be in place. They'll want to start getting their messages across and their philosophies across as soon as they possibly can. So I know he's being very coy, and I understand completely why he's being very coy. But I'd be amazed if there isn't somebody in place by the middle of next week.
Interesting. And your thoughts on moving the Cardiff friendly to 12?
I think it just shows how sad it is in the world we live in at the moment, that there's potential for I never understand football hooliganism anyway, any time of the year, but even more so in a pre-season friendly. And I think it's a sad state of affairs of people in this country that they can't behave.
Because it might be more interesting, of course, because Wales have now qualified for a World Cup, so there's more interest in Welsh football. What are you doing that for, Mitchell?
I have a lot, aren't I? So.
Oh, sorry about that. I have a lot of Welsh relatives, so hey. There you go. I think you're all right with that, Mark, aren't you? Wales qualifying for the World Cup. Sorry, you've gone all quiet on us.
Yeah, no, I am. I'm fine with Wales being in the World Cup. I'm actually looking forward to it. I think they'll probably give us a good game because they're in our group, aren't they?
Yeah, they are indeed. Yes. Yeah, James says Lee Peacock manager, Ian Wone number 2. Ian Wone, goodness me, what a player he was. Has to be the right man based on ability, not just pound signs. If getting a cheap under 23 coach that develops players equates to us being in League 2 for 6 or 7 years' time, is that going to sell more season tickets? Not sure. The thing is, Steve, you know, under 23 coaches in the Premiership and Championship are on decent money, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Premiership, definitely. Probably some of the top Championship clubs, they'll be on good money in that. So, you know, that might be a stumbling block as well. Is someone prepared to perhaps drop their salary with a view to getting on the management ladder? It might happen, but yeah, that could be a stumbling block as well with some. Yeah,
absolutely. Right, where do we think we're going to be then in 7 days' time? Because, you know, am I going to have to do another panel this week? I got a feeling we might be doing another panel this week at some point. And let's be flippant, talk about kits, because, you know, there's going to be a kit launch at some point. They're hinting at a return to the past. I've got a Burma shirt behind me. There's a white shirt behind me. There's a kind of talk of that retro look. Where are you with that, Mark?
Yeah, I like a retro look. I tried to squeeze into my 1985 shirt the other week to go to the Port Vale game. I did just do it, to be fair. I was quite pleased. There was a bit of a squeeze, and that was the pinstripe one, you'll recall, with no sponsor on the front. So that was the first shirt that I bought in a Lou
Macari somewhere here.
Yeah, I'll be around. And obviously to have the pinstripe was really good, although I couldn't get hold of one. They'd all sold out by the time I got my act together. I'm not a big fan of a yellow and green away kit, I have to say. I much prefer a white or a blue one. So that would be something I'd look for. But I'm quite all right with the retro idea. Although obviously we can't have Burma as a sponsor, but something similar to the Premier League days without the badge. Obviously, that curious diamond affair that we used to have back in the early 90s. Never quite understood that.
Glenn Hoddle designed it, so there you go.
Did he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
I'll say nothing then. So a bit of retro be fine, but not yellow and green. I know that's the old sort of Aussie colours. I get that, but let's go with a bit of tradition. White for me, I think, for the away kit.
Yeah, I do like white kits, I must admit. Mitchell, where are you with the kits? You've got an old button-up collar one behind you.
89.
Yeah. Collars.
I think we'll launch the kit on Thursday. Manager be announced on Friday. Or head coach be announced on Friday.
Oh, I got cricket on Friday night. That's a bit disappointing.
That's what I reckon. Or they'll do it together. The photo shoot was done before the playoffs. The kits were done, and I
thought you meant the managers.
No. The kits were done. Photo shoot was all done before the playoff games. So 16th launch on Thursday. Might be with the manager, or if not, the manager will be on Friday. That's my prediction. Sorry, head coach.
Darn it!
And I'm happy with red, and I like the yellow.
It's Somerset against Gloucestershire as well, so local derby. So I'll be doing the panel live from Taunton, if that's all right with you. Andrew, where are you with the kits?
All the sort of videos are kind of hinting at a white kit, aren't they? Because I think the away ones. Maybe we'll be bold enough to bring back the famous potato print. Though my favorite, I think my favorite one was the 95, 96 Steve McMahon promotion season away kit, the black and blue halves. I always think looked quite good. I was a bit of a fan of that one. So if they want to bring that back, fine. But the video sort of hint it's going to be white, don't they?
Yeah, I am a fan of white kits, I have to say. Steve, the collars, they're an interesting thing, aren't they? I don't think players are terribly keen on collars.
Players don't like collared shirts. Players do not like collared shirts. I mean, the kits I liked, to be honest, when I was at the club, I liked when we had Adidas, not because of the quality of the gear, but I did like the Adidas shirt. I quite liked the blue and yellow Adidas one, like the yellow band across the front. That was one of my favourites. But I also liked. Did we have a black kit as well? I think around that time that was might have been the third kit. I really like that one, but I've got to be honest, I'm not a big fan of the yellow or green. I'm not a big fan of that. But Adidas was great. With Hummel these days, and they do some really good kits. But Adidas was my favourite in my time.
Okay, marvellous. Malcolm says the Don was okay in white shorts. Never got them dirty. Well, he didn't need to. He just glided across the surface. You didn't need to get them dirty. Right. Charlie says the famous Andrew Hawes voice. So there we are. A bit of fan mail.
Shame about the visuals, but
Darren says a retro Burma Premier League kit and retro white GWR one, I reckon. The black top I thought this year is. I'll go no further with that. It wasn't very popular, Mark, was it? The black one?
No. I don't know what I thought about it, really. It didn't feel like a shirt. It felt like something had been turned inside out, really. I've seen a few people wearing it. I wasn't a big fan of it, I have to say. And I wonder whether the players struggled to see each other, especially during night games. Did they play in the black shirt during night games? I don't know.
Yeah, they played
the Orient one was.
Yeah.
Orient. Well, that says everything. Then that was our worst defeat of the season. So, yeah, I don't like the black shirt. I don't like the yellow and green. Yellow's Oxford, not Swindon. Let's get a white or a blue.
Yeah, and they also wore it at Hartlepool, of course, which they promptly gave the shirts away straight after the game. So,
they did. And they won there, but that was during the day, so maybe a bit different.
Yeah, bright sunshine at Hartlepool. And that's another thing, actually. What was lovely about Hartlepool, apart from the victory, was the fact that before the game, you could go into the Hartlepool supporters bar and enjoy a nice drink and have a chat with the supporters of Hartlepool United, which I have to say is a great thing to do, Mitchell. And I think we've lost that in football, haven't we?
I remember a few years back when it was Crawley away and it was pay whatever you want, and it was like everyone just went and paid £1 or something. And we were in with the Crawley fans then, and I remember again the FA Cup against Leicester when they beat us when it was Paolo, and we were drinking with the Leicester fans after, and it's all like, wish you guys the best of luck and the same. Yeah, I really enjoy it when you can mix and have a good chat with the other fans. It's only when people get a bit trying to prove a point, get louder and try to sing over each other. That's fine. It's the next step when everyone just tries to kind of prove a point. But I like mixing and chatting to other fans because when we're at this level, anyone who supports anyone outside the Premier League, I respect you, because it's tough. It's tough supporting these type of teams.
Yeah, Andrew, I know you're sort of always having really nice 3-course meals in the press area at places like Hartlepool, so you wouldn't actually.
It was a sausage roll at Port Vale.
Yes, Steve is also aware of the facilities for the press people at various grounds, which are nil basically. But in your days as a fan, I know you've been as a fan, so it's getting nice, isn't it? Craig says Rochdale Club Bar was very welcoming too. Friendliest for our fans all season. Hartlepool, great hosts. I mean, it is nice, isn't it, when you can get together and mix?
Yeah, going back to my sort of traveling days, I can remember having a sort of, particularly enjoyable afternoon in a pub at Barnsley before a game there. And actually, I think especially when I was sort of going around in my 20s, I think it really does actually give you some insight into life in other parts of the country that you just don't get, really. I'd only usually see the North on TV, so to it sounds a bit ridiculous, but to actually kind of just have that chance to mix with people from completely different backgrounds in a completely different part of the country and have that common theme of football, I always found one of the better parts of the day out, apart from the Birmingham fans that tried to get me out of a pub once. But other than that, pretty good.
Yeah. Dennis says, watching from Costa Blanca, hurry up over there and get us our man. Don't come to us with your problems, sitting in the sunshine in the Costa Blanca. Let's have a look. Used to go on with the Port Vale fans into their bar. They're a lovely little clubhouse outside Vale Park, if I remember rightly. Port Vale fans are very welcoming. Got half a bottle of Coke and 38 pence in change from them after the game. Very good, Nathan. Yes. Steve, you're right. You've already mentioned the sausage roll at Port Vale, but it is nice when fans get together, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Mitchell summed it up perfectly. I think it's good that if fans can mix, I think fair game when they're trying to obviously sing over the top of each other. I think that's quite good. But when it goes any further than that, I can't get my head around it. I've always said it. I'm a passionate football man, but not to the point that you can end up scrapping on the terraces. I can't get my head around it. It's just wrong, completely wrong. It's horrible for the kids. It's just wrong. It's as simple as that. So it would be good to see fans getting on better with each other, shall we say.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned about the 2020 cricket. There's a lot of people being kicked out of 2020 games now because of the amount of alcohol they drink, and that leads to all sorts of problems. So, but the whole point about 2020 is that people spend a lot of money at the bar, so it's kind of like a vicious circle, really. The bar at Crawley was very good. It is a very good bar, really nice. Walsall away, friendly supporters, nice bar, and chats with them. A £1 admission to get in. There are lots of nice places around the country if you want to find them out and sort of have a chat with the supporters. It's really good. Do we mention Tranmere?
May I just say the difference between the last two away games that I went to in Walsall and Port Vale was massive. Yeah, Walsall was just welcoming, like somebody said, and at the end of the game, there was a pitch invasion of sorts, but it was just all very friendly. The police did an excellent job. We spoke to the Walsall fans afterwards, and they were very friendly. Said they were the best side that they played this season because the aggregate was something like 8-0 in the league, and then we beat them in the cup as well or something, didn't we? So the difference between that and Port Vale was massive. It was ugly at Port Vale. I don't want people to lose sight of that.
It's horrible.
I don't mind anybody celebrating. I understand they wanted to come on the pitch. But then, chucking bottles and all the rest of it while the police stood by and did nothing. It was really horrible. And it left a sour taste in the mouth. And that's nothing to do with sour grapes either, by the way. That's just to do with the way that it felt in that away end.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's the worst I've felt since the local derby a few years ago at that place down the road, which was pretty horrific with coins and darts and God knows what being thrown at you. Now, Craig says Tranmere, friendly club bar outside in a tented area too. Dreadful result that night, but chiefest bovril of the season at £1.80. And Matt says the trip to Port Vale was nothing like the one in February. Hostile from the off. I mean, I know it was a playoff game, but horrible. Chris, are you there? Chris? Are you there? Come in, Chris. No, she's not, clearly.
I
right. Oh, yes, she is. She's just appearing now.
You surprised me.
You're watching. You were watching Coronation Street or something?
No, of course I wasn't. No. So, no, very good. Sandro spoke very well.
Yes, he did. What about Port Vale?
Okay.
Have we heard anything back?
No, is the answer. We had an email from the FL, really just saying that they were leaving it to the clubs to sort it out, and they will be working on a standard that the clubs have to work with. But from Port Vale themselves, from the police, no, we haven't. We had a committee meeting last week, and one of the actions is to chase it up to see what we've got. So, yeah, we won't. We're not going to let them sweep it under the carpet. We will keep on at them to get a resolution. It's not going to go away. So
it has to be sorted out. Glyn says, I think our fans should have cleared the pitch soon at Walsall. Their own players wanted to thank their fans for the support this season, which is a fair point.
Fair point. Yeah.
And thank you to Steve for sending the sunshine down the motorway. It's actually arrived, so I really appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks to Andrew for putting the hat on, and not sharing it with Steve was pretty poor. I thought really poor. Mitchell, thank you, and I hope
go that way, or do I have to go that? Can't get it that way.
Mitchell, I hope everything's going well with the young one and continues to do so. And Mark, thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure.
Yeah, as Rick said, thank you everybody for taking the time to come on. Thank you, Vic, as always. Just a couple of things. The shop opens on Thursday. It's had a really good refit. I've seen it through the window today, and it's totally changed. So that's going to be good. And we'll keep an eye on social media for the kit. And we may well be back this week. We don't know. Keep on a lookout when everything's announced. We will be back, and don't forget to get your orders in for membership for the OSC for next season. Go to the website and have a look.
Just quickly, Malcolm says, evening all. Mitch, how did you get that clock? They were on sale recently, weren't they, the clocks?
Wow, it's that you got to join a waiting list, and you just got to contact the clock guys on Twitter and just wait patiently. My one got lost, so I paid an extra $5 to get it tracked, and it got lost. It took a month to get it. They sent me another one.
Okay. Alternatively, you can get that from Dan's Designs and various sizes. So do with it what you will. Then, so here we are. Re-OS 6. Oh, hang on. Chris, re-OSC fixtures map for next season. Can we include Anglesey on the map this time? It bothered me all year last year.
That's Craig, isn't it?
Yes,
that's Craig. Yeah, thanks, Craig. We'll see what we can do.
We wouldn't want to leave Anglesey out. We're not away at them, are we? Are we playing them this season, Anglesey?
We'll have to wait for the fixture list to come out, won't we, to see if we're playing them.
Anglesey away on a Tuesday night.
On the mention of that, that's one of the perks of joining the OSC. You do get a free fixture map poster. If there are any left at the end, we will put them on general sale, but please join if you particularly want to receive one. It's one of the perks. So thank you, everybody. We will see you soon. Thank you to the panel. Thank you, Vic, and keep your eye on social media for when we next get back. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.